Anyway, so that was a tangent. I also we've been talking a lot about composers, and I would hate to have Doreen on the show and not have to really show off her knowledge here. Who are some of your favorite composers like right now working? And obviously not the John Williams and the Hans Zimmers. We know about that. Like, who are some people that we should know about? I like Steve Jablonsky. I don't know how a big fan you are. Good. Yeah, who do you like?
I mean, he's famous because he's from Radiohead, but Johnny Greenwood.
What's he worked on? What some of the movies
he's done a lot of the P.T. Anderson movies, and so he did Phantom Thread last year. Which,
is that your favorite score?
Yes, which should have won the Oscar, I think.
What won the score for the Oscar
Shape
score?
of Water by Alexander Desplat, who's also awesome.
He's a great composer.
Who, Desplat?
I just didn't like that.
Desplat,
movie.
His Godzilla score is freaking amazing.
Yeah, remember he was supposed to do Rogue One.
He was.
Desplat was supposed to do Rogue One. And then Giacchino came in because of something that happened because of the reshoots and everything, and they moved him off because he was already booked on something else.
What's Giacchino's biggest credit?
I mean,
everything.
He's done so much. He's done a bunch of Pixar movies like Up, which is gorgeous.
The Planet of the Apes.
The Incredibles, which is all jazzy and cool. Star Trek he's famous for, but Star Trek's okay.
So I like
Coco. He did Coco, which I was
Coco.
super impressed with as a super Mexican person because I was like, look at this guy. I don't know where he's from, but he did like ranchera, like in mariachi, and like all this type of like Mexican genre music.
It was a beautifully scored movie.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Phantom Thread.
Yeah, it's Phantom Thread.
Not Coco.
Yeah.
This is not Coco. This is Phantom Thread, and I still have not seen this movie. I have
Phantom
it at home.
Thread.
Yeah,
It's not for everyone. I loved it.
I hear it's great.
It's not for everyone. It's basically.
You didn't like it?
No, what is it? Because I watched the trailer 3 times, and I have no idea what it's about.
It's about two doms trying to make each other the sub.
Wait, say it again?
It's about two doms trying to make each other a sub.
Two dominants.
Right, no,
It's about a relationship.
Trying to make a submission.
Got
Yeah.
it. No, I get
dominance.
that. Still, but what is
Dominant personalities.
I fucking get it, dude. Punch you through this microphone.
You see the way it works is.
Yeah, I got it. So the one's got a Phantom Thread ball gag in his mouth.
Yes.
What's going on?
Yeah,
here?
perfect. All right.
Okay.
Okay, so Giacchino we talked about already, obviously. So what do you like? Some scores from Desplat. Anything in particular?
I actually really liked his Harry Potter stuff. Like
Which
I thought
one did
that
he
was
do?
really cool. He did the last couple
Play a little
of
of that.
movies.
Okay.
And then Shape of Water was cool. It's just like it was pretty.
It was, yeah. Did you like that movie? Yeah.
It was visually stunning, but the story was. I mean, I'm not into romance movies. I was like, meh.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, and they didn't even show
pretty
fish
grueling,
penis.
though.
Yeah, right?
You wanted to see fish penis?
That was my
Yes.
biggest
Why?
gripe.
Because it'd be funny.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, that's fair.
If you go into work the next day and your friend's like, "Did you bang the fish man?" And she's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, girl." Like, my friend would be like, "Don't bang the fish guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't
Right.
do it. It's a weird fish man.
Yeah,
You can't have sex with the fish man."
This is the Harry Potter one. I mean, so he's had, obviously, Desplat has had some.
But my favorite of his though is Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh, yeah.
I
That's
love
a good
that one.
Too. Okay.
Because that's actually my favorite Wes Anderson movie.
That's an underrated movie.
I like that
good.
movie. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that one.
Grand
It's not my
Budapest.
favorite Wes Anderson movie, but I do. It'll never be touched.
Royal Tenenbaums.
I love Royal Tenenbaums.
Oh, yeah.
So
Me too.
good.
But this was a good score.
So good.
This was a really good score.
I
yeah.
think it should have won or it won. I
Yeah.
forget. I don't know.
It fit the movie brilliantly.
Perfect.
Have you ever
Yeah.
met him before or anything?
Desplat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Which composers have you met? I know did you meet Zimmer?
No, I just met John Williams.
John Williams. It's
Yeah.
a pretty good one.
When I met like newer composers like Brian Tyler.
Yeah,
and,
Brian Tyler. Yeah.
Yes.
Phil Eisler, he does like more like TV shows and things like that.
I'll tell you, Brian Tyler.
What's he worked on?
So Brian, I mean, tons of shit.
most
but-
of the MCU movies.
Oh.
Yeah, so Brian Tyler, who I had on one-on-one, he came on because I had met him when he was doing the Expendables, but I think he's done the most. This is a great score. Copster loves this one. Iron Man
Big
3.
fan. I wish I met him.
I wish you would have too. And we can have him on the show. I'll just reach out to him. What a good dude.
Yeah.
And he just also did a really good score for Crazy Rich Asians.
Yes, and that's
That
what we
was
talked.
really good.
And that's what we
Yeah.
talked about when he came on the show. Is that and he's also doing Yellowstone.
Oh, the show.
Yeah.
Because the thing about like MCU, I feel like most of these scores, I blame the studios for not letting the composers actually do their own thing.
Yeah.
Because most of these scores don't have a theme. Like Thor doesn't have a theme. You know, like the only theme that people can hum is the Avengers.
Yeah.
Like none of these other characters have a theme.
What they-
Like it's not like you
Captain
know
America does. Alan Silvestri though.
Right,
But
but
Captain America.
like you know Wonder Woman's theme, right?
Yes.
Like you know two Batman themes, but
Yeah.
like these MCU characters, like, you don't really know their themes, and I feel like that's the studios holding back these composers, because look at what Brian did with Crazy Rich Asians,
Well,
right? Or like this one, yeah.
Yes, this Iron Man 3 one. I wish they would go more with this when this particular thing that I like the hook. I want to see this come back, this hook, when he's fighting Thanos in the next one. This is a great
They
hook.
did things like Brian Tyler was attached to a couple projects with them. So he did Iron Man 3, then he did The Dark World, then he did Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
And then for a long time, Giacchino, or Giacchino, however you say it, he did like Doctor Strange, Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah.
So like they kind of like latch on to a couple here.
Well,
and there.
remember though, they switched that up though, because Perlmutter was holding them back, because what it was is, if you noticed, the Avengers theme that you talk about, which is pretty iconic now, right?
The Silvestri one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, when they brought that in, they from the second movie, it was gone. They brought in Brian Tyler because they didn't want to pay the composer, because
Yeah.
you got to pay him more every time, and there's royalties every time you use their theme. And if you see it, there's like, you can use a little of it, right? You can use a little of it. So they did that, and there's like hints of it. But I think once Perlmutter moved over to just TV, and Feige really took the head, he brought Silvestri back. There's more of that, because you're talking about, it's so important to have a theme.
Yeah.
And so to be
Otherwise, you just
memorable.
have background music.
That's what it is, and I think that's probably the difference between, like, say, Feige. It's something I always wanted to talk to Feige about, because I believe that he understands how important music is. Because I think sometimes people push the music.
But do you think
just
it's
music.
the director who is it? Because, like, I feel like what happens
Not for
is
Marvel.
I feel like what happens is these directors or whoever is, you know, post is watching the movie with temp music. And when the composer brings something that's a little bit more distracting, you know, that's
Yeah.
more melodic and that's not background music, somebody goes, no, can you make it more like the temp music?
Right.
And then you end up with mostly background music.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember. It might have been you, but I had a conversation with it might have been Brian Tyler. I can't remember, but it was a temp music is the bane of composers' existence.
Yeah,
Because,
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I said that, and then I saw Danny Elfman said that in a
That's
in a
what it was.
documentary or something. Yeah.
And so, but anyway, it just depends. I mean, it depends. And that's why next time you come on, we'll try to get Brian Tyler on also, so we can have kind of more detailed conversation about it too. But
What was your, like, when did you first fall in love with scores? Like, what was it that
I was
drawn you to?
super young. Honestly, my first CDs were soundtracks.
Really?
Yeah, like I made my mom like buy me like everything from Little Mermaid to Home Alone, you know, and because
that's actually a great score, yeah.
so good. It's one of John Williams is one of my favorites of his, and that's just all I listen to. Like, I love being in my room and listening to albums.
Interesting.
And I mean, I used to make playlists. Well, not playlists back then, but like mixes for like our family like Christmas dinner, and I would put like Home Alone music, you know. And then eventually, when I started playing the cello, I was a total nerd, and I started playing like, you know, the Beatles songs, like I Am the Walrus, like the string parts, and so I would try and like also play score music.
That's pretty
And I
awesome.
got obsessed.
it's funny when you hear this Home Alone thing, you can hear where he gets. You hear Harry Potter in there.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
Oh yeah, and that's
Yeah.
the thing. That's what's fun too. Is like throughout the years, you can kind of figure out what like each composer totally rips himself off.
Yeah.
Or herself off. Like from this sounds like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Like Harry Potter also sounds like Hook.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or Hans Zimmer, obviously, he's ripped himself off so many times. Like Inception sounds like The Thin Red Line.
Yes.
You know, or what's the like Dunkirk sounds a lot like
That's
it as
true.
well.
Yeah. So I mean,
Interesting. Do you
get
still play cello?
It's in my house. I
You
haven't
don't play
touched
it as much. How come? Just harder to.
Just busy. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Oh, come on! You
Cello.
don't give him the drum roll on that one.
That was the second time I did that too, so that's bad on my part.
It wasn't great. Thank you, Bruno. All right. So, well, look, there's so many more that we could probably talk about, and other things that we should. I mean, we have a full like hour-long conversation on this.
See, that had to do with movies.
What we talked about movies a lot in this episode.
Do
So
you
if
guys have a favorite?
Score?
composer?
Or how both?
I do like Time. I mean, I know even it's kind of played out.
Theme song, but it's so good.
It's so good.
It's
I mean,
beautiful.
We played it like yeah.
yeah.
It gets me every time.
Yeah.
No pun intended. Like I was, the first time I heard it, because and not only is it just an amazing piece of music, it fits that scene so well. Like after everything that they've been through, and it's just so exhausting, but it's like this sense of accomplishment and like this. It was just this monumental thing of them all waking up and looking at one another. Didn't have to say anything. It was the look that they have as it's playing through. It's so intense, and it's great.
And there's a reason why I prefer, when I say I prefer visual storytelling, is like, give me more score than dialogue. There's a reason why these scenes are better when there's no words.
Yeah.
And that's why I love movies like Blade Runner. Like Vangelis is one of my favorites as well.
That's going to.
And that's all score.
And you know who else we have bonded over also? He doesn't have a very big library, but play John Bryan, Brion, Norman's Walk. Play John
From
Bryan.
Paranorman.
Yeah. John Bryan, Brion.
And it's no H.
Yeah. That's it.
That's
it. This piece is one of my favorites.
It's such a good movie.
I told you about this too. So when my daughter, who's now 7, was like 6 months old, I had this song playing, and it's just such an emotional piece of music. I loved this when I saw this in the theater, and like he's a guy too. My 2 favorite pieces of music from him are this
Eternal Sunshine.
And Eternal Sunshine. Yeah, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is one of my favorite all-time movies.
Yeah.
And his music adds to that.
You were the first person, Christian, that like pointed out scores to me and how it's taken you out of certain movies and other movies made it much better. And since then, I actually pay attention to scores more. And sometimes, I mean, I rarely do I look in the credits, but when I see names that I've seen before, I'm like, okay, now I can kind of pick, motifs, I guess, if you will, from certain composers and how they score certain movies. So it's kind of been, because you pointed out to me that you didn't like the score in Rogue One. There's
parts of it. I mean, I've come around to like some of it now, but some of it still is just, it just doesn't fit.
Right.
I mean, and it's also hard. Like any of these compositions, even whether you like them or not, it's hard. Like it's hard to come up with this music.
Especially in 2 weeks is what he did.
Yeah. But it's still like when it sounds like temp music, like it's generic sounding to me.
Yeah.
I want more interesting arrangements and like melodies and things like that. That's why like I'm excited that I guess Hans is doing the new Wonder Woman, is what I heard.
I think he did the first one.
No, but he did it with Junkie.
Right.
No. The Wonder Woman was by somebody else. He did the theme with Junkie for Batman and that movie Superman. Oh, I love this one.
Frank
yes,
texted
Danny
me and
Elfman.
he immediately wanted us to play this.
I mean, this is Elfman.
Danny Elfman.
Yeah. I mean,
his
Danny
concert
Elfman's
is also awesome, by the way.
I want to go.
He plays a bunch of like Tim Burton stuff,
cool.
and so he does this in Beetlejuice, and
Elfman's kind of got a majestic feel to a lot of his stuff.
And
too.
also, in my
Whimsical.
opinion, like the 2 best superhero movies out there are by him and John Williams. John Williams is Superman, and then Danny Elfman's Batman.
First Batman.
So
Play the
good.
first Batman. Yeah, the 89 Batman.
98 degrees.
Yeah, 98 degrees. But
They
are
scored a lot of
you
movies.
I'm a different kind of. I really like the different music within a movie. So I'm Shazamming things a lot.
Right.
But even one of the ones I brought up, Pump Up the Volume.
Great
stuff
score,
like that.
great
Like,
soundtrack.
I discover a lot of great music in
Space Jam.
You know
film.
what? You know who I was introduced to and became a huge fan of him through Pump Up the Volume was Leonard Cohen.
Yeah.
Leonard Cohen, obviously the great Leonard Cohen. I learned about him through that movie. But yeah, this you're right. This is a
so good,
iconic score, and I love that they kind of brought it back a little bit in Justice League.
Yeah.
They brought it.
It's so good. I mean, that intro when I first saw that '89 movie, where like how the credits start with just going through the bat symbol, and it looks like you're going through a cave, and then you see the actual like bat symbol. Like I died as a kid. Like I was freaking out.
It was great.
It was so amazing.
It was really good.
I to this day think that the '89 Batman. I mean, I think it's the best Batman, but I think that it is the grittiest look at Gotham City.
Still?
Yes, I'm telling you, I still think 1989 Batman.
Well, Batman Returns even more, because that was all.
I don't like
that.
that
was like
movie.
I love that.
I know.
I don't
I can
like
tell you
Returns.
that's perfect for you, that movie. But
Yeah.
it was too. I thought the first Batman, the '89 Batman, was a mix of Batman and Tim Burton.
Yeah.
The second movie was all
just
Tim
Tim Burton. Yeah. And I like the Penguin. I'm not as into, but like Catwoman, and Catwoman's theme is so good too.
good. But
even if you don't like the movie.
I do want to go back to John Bryan real quick and play the Eternal Sunshine. No, just play John Bryan Row, R-O-W.
I see. For me, there's really nothing like the Indiana Jones theme.
Oh, that's good.
And
It's really good.
He was my hero growing up. All I wanted was a
Volumes
hat
down.
and a bullwhip. My mom was like doing some fall cleaning, getting whatever summer decorations down and whatever up, and she found my bullwhip and my hat from when I was a kid. She's like, "Look what I found!" Because I had an Indiana Jones costume, and that was everything to me. So that soundtrack And that thing, like, that gets me pumped up.
Yeah.
That soundtrack
And it's a great
amazing.
hero theme. And you know, it's
Yeah.
funny that you brought it up because I was just at the John Williams concert this weekend, and they actually played, like, Steven Spielberg was there, and he presented a scene from Last Crusade, the beginning scene.
Awesome.
Which one?
That's my favorite one.
With
that
when
one.
River
River.
Phoenix is like going through the gross like reptile
zoo.
circus.
Yeah.
Zoo
So
train.
Last Crusade.
And he played the scene with zero music, so it's just the
Oh, cool.
dialogue, and like Steven Spielberg was basically like, so this could be better if you're drinking beer and wine. Like he's like, thanks for your patience, and then they played again with the orchestra and John Williams' music, and it's a completely different thing. Like that just shows you how much his
supposed to be
music
in a museum.
helps. Yeah, exactly.
My daughter's been saying that a lot lately
Yeah.
because she was telling me she wants to be an archaeologist, right? So
I wanted to be one forever, too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so she still hasn't seen Indiana Jones yet. But she says to my mother-in-law the other day, she's like, my mother-in-law said something. What are you talking about? And my daughter goes, it belongs in a museum. and I look back, I'm making like food, and I go, so do you. It was good. But yeah, there's a lot of great composers out there, a lot of good scores. And Darina, I think every time you come in, we should have more conversations like this. It's been fun. I honestly don't care if anybody's even listening right now. I would rather have conversations, be able to listen to all this music and play it. So.